Hello, I'm very happy you are here today. Learning English can sometimes feel difficult, especially when you think your vocabulary is small. But I want to tell you something very important. You can speak English smoothly, even if you do not know many words. Speaking well is not only about having a big dictionary in your head. It is also about using the words you know with confidence and calm. Today, I will share some practical ideas to help you speak English clearly and naturally, even with a small vocabulary. Many English learners worry that they need to know thousands of words before they can speak well, but this is not true. You can communicate a lot with a smaller number of words if you use them in the right way. This means focusing on how you speak, not just what words you say. You can learn to speak smoothly by using simple sentences, helpful phrases, and good listening habits. In this video, we will talk about how to use simple words and sentences. I will explain why it is better to speak slowly and clearly rather than trying to speak fast with difficult words. You will hear examples that show how to sound natural, even when your vocabulary is not very big. I will also give you tips on how to practice speaking every day, so you can improve step by step. Remember, the goal is to communicate your ideas and feelings in a way that others can understand. It is okay if you make mistakes. The most important thing is to keep trying and practicing. Speaking smoothly takes time, but it is possible for everyone. So let's begin this journey together. Now that we understand why speaking smoothly with a small vocabulary is important, we can move on to learn more about how many words you really need. This will help you feel more confident and ready to use your English every day. Understanding vocabulary limits. It is very common to think that you need to learn thousands of English words before you can speak well. But actually, you do not need a huge vocabulary to have good conversations. Many people speak well with just a few hundred words. The key is to use those words comfortably and clearly. Think about your own language. You probably use many simple words every day to talk to your family and friends. It is not necessary to know every word in the dictionary to share your ideas or feelings. The same is true in English. If you focus on learning and using the most common words, you can understand and be understood. Some studies say that knowing around 1,000 to 2,000 words can help you understand everyday conversations. This number might sound small compared to all the words in English, but it is enough for many situations. The most important thing is to practice using these words often so you remember them well and can speak smoothly. Also, it is important to know that speaking well is not only about vocabulary size. It's about using the words you know naturally. Sometimes, people with large vocabularies do not speak clearly because they try to use difficult words they do not fully understand. This can make speaking slow or confusing. So don't worry if you feel your vocabulary is small. Instead, try to use your words with confidence. Repeat them, practice simple sentences, and speak slowly. Over time, your vocabulary will grow naturally, but in the beginning, it is okay to keep things simple. When you feel confident with a small number of words, you will speak more smoothly. Your listeners will understand you better, and you will feel less nervous. This is the goal for all English learners, to speak clearly and confidently, even if your vocabulary is small. Next, we will look at how using simple sentences helps you speak more smoothly. Simple sentences can make speaking easier and more natural. Let's see how this works. The power of simple sentences. Using simple sentences is one of the best ways to speak English smoothly, especially if you have a small vocabulary. When sentences are simple, it is easier to find the right words and say them clearly. This helps you feel more confident and helps the person listening understand you better. Sometimes, learners try to use long or complicated sentences because they want to sound smart or correct. But this can make speaking more difficult. Long sentences often need many different words and grammar rules, which can slow you down or cause mistakes. When you try to say too much at once, you might forget words or get stuck. Simple sentences, on the other hand, use fewer words and clear ideas. For example, instead of saying, "I was thinking that maybe we could possibly go to the cinema this evening if you are free," you can say, "Do you want to go to the cinema tonight?" Both sentences mean the same thing. But the second one is easier to say and understand. Simple sentences help your speaking flow better. When you speak in short, clear sentences, you can pause to think about what to say next without stopping completely. This makes your speech sound natural and calm. People will listen carefully and follow your ideas more easily. It is also easier to practice simple sentences. You can learn a few useful sentence patterns and change some words to talk about different things. For example, "I like coffee," "I like tea," or "I like walking." This way, you practice speaking often and build your confidence step by step. Remember, speaking smoothly is not about using the most difficult words or the longest sentences. It is about sharing your ideas clearly and calmly. Simple sentences are the best tools for this. In the next chapter, we will talk about some special phrases and small words called fillers. These help you sound more natural and give you time to think while speaking. Using these phrases is another way to speak smoothly, even if your vocabulary is small. Useful phrases and fillers for smooth speaking. Now that we understand how simple sentences help us speak clearly, let's talk about another important way to sound natural in English, using useful phrases and fillers. These small words and expressions can help you speak more smoothly, even if you don't know many words. Fillers are words or short phrases like "well," "you know," "actually," or "I mean." They may seem small, but they are very helpful when you need a moment to think. Instead of stopping completely or saying or you can use these phrases. They give your brain a little more time to find the right words, and they make your speech sound natural and relaxed. For example, if someone asks you a question and you need a few seconds to think, you can say, "Well, I think," or "actually, that's a good question." This way, you keep speaking without long pauses. It shows you are confident and comfortable in English. Useful phrases also help you start sentences or give your opinion. For example, phrases like "in my opinion," "I believe," or "that's interesting" can make your speaking more interesting and smooth. When you use these phrases often, you get used to speaking in a natural way. This will help you communicate better with others. You can practice these phrases by repeating them out loud every day. Say, "Well, I think," or "you know," several times until they feel easy. Then, try to use them in your conversations. The more you practice, the more smoothly you will speak. Remember, it is okay to use simple words and phrases. You don't need to speak very fast or use complicated grammar. Speaking smoothly is about keeping the conversation going and showing that you are confident. Small phrases and fillers are like little bridges that help your speech flow. Next, we will explore how listening to English every day can help you speak more smoothly. Listening is a very important part of learning to speak well, so it's good to know how to practice it correctly. Listening to improve speaking. Listening is a very important part of learning to speak English smoothly. When you listen to English every day, you start to hear how words and sentences sound in real life. This helps you understand the natural rhythm and flow of the language. Listening carefully can also teach you new phrases and ways to say things, even if your vocabulary is small. Many learners think that speaking and listening are separate skills, but they are connected. When you listen well, your brain learns how English speakers use simple words and phrases in everyday conversations. This makes it easier for you to speak like them. Listening helps you get used to the speed, pronunciation, and natural pauses in English. To improve your listening, it is good to choose easy and clear English materials. For example, you can listen to short conversations, stories, or podcasts made for learners. When you listen, try to focus on the words and phrases you already know. Notice how the speakers use simple sentences and fillers to sound natural. It is also helpful to listen again and again. The more you hear the same words and phrases, the better you understand them. This repetition helps you remember and use them when you speak. You don't need to understand every word. Focus on the meaning and the way the language sounds. Listening is not just about hearing words. It is about understanding how English works. When you practice listening, you learn how to use your small vocabulary in a natural way. This will make your speaking smoother and more confident. Remember, it's okay to start with simple listening materials. Over time, your skills will improve and you'll feel more comfortable speaking. Listening every day, even for a short time, will help you make steady progress. Now that we know how important listening is, we can talk about practical ways to practice speaking every day. Speaking practice will help you use what you hear and speak more smoothly. Speaking practice strategies. Now that we understand how listening helps speaking, it's time to talk about how you can practice speaking every day. Practice is very important if you want to speak smoothly, especially when your vocabulary is small. The more you practice, the more confident and natural you will sound. One helpful way to practice is called repetition. This means repeating the same sentences or phrases many times. When you repeat, your mouth and brain learn the sounds and rhythm of English. This makes it easier to say the words smoothly later, without stopping or thinking too much. You can start with simple sentences you already know and say them out loud several times. Another good method is shadowing. Shadowing means listening to a sentence or a short conversation and then speaking at the same time as the speaker. You copy their pronunciation, speed, and intonation. This helps you get used to natural English and speak more like a native speaker. Shadowing can feel difficult at first, but with practice, it becomes easier and very helpful. You can also practice speaking with friends, language partners, or teachers. Speaking with someone else gives you a chance to use your vocabulary and get feedback. It is okay to make mistakes. That is part of learning. The important thing is to keep speaking and trying. If you don't have someone to practice with, you can practice alone. Talk to yourself about your day, your plans, or things you like. This may feel strange at first, but it helps you use English without pressure. You can also record yourself speaking and listen again. This will help you hear your progress and find areas to improve. Remember, the goal of practice is to build confidence and smoothness. Speak slowly, use simple sentences, and don't worry about mistakes. Each time you practice, you improve a little more. Speaking every day, even for a few minutes, will help you grow. Keep a positive attitude and celebrate small successes. Your speaking will become clearer and more natural over time. Next, we will look at some examples of smooth speaking with a small vocabulary. These examples will show you how simple words and phrases work together in real conversations. Examples of smooth speaking with small vocabulary. Now, let's look at some examples of how you can speak smoothly using simple words and sentences. These examples will help you understand how to put everything we talked about into practice. Remember, even with a small vocabulary, you can have good conversations that sound natural and clear. Imagine you are talking with a friend about your day. Instead of trying to say very complicated sentences, you can use simple sentences like, I went to the park, or the weather was nice. These sentences are easy to say, and your friend will understand you well. If you want to give more information, you can add short phrases. For example, I went to the park, it was sunny, or the weather was nice, I felt happy. This way, you speak smoothly, using words you know, and your listener can follow your ideas easily. Sometimes, when you are not sure what to say next, you can use fillers like well or you know to buy some time. For example, well, I think the park is a good place to relax. Or, you know, I like walking there every day. These small phrases help your speech sound natural and calm. Here is another example. If someone asks you about your favorite food, you can say, I like pizza, or I like pizza because it is tasty. Simple sentences like these are enough to express your opinion clearly. You don't need to use difficult words. You can practice these examples by saying them out loud or writing similar sentences about your own life. Try to speak slowly and clearly, using simple words. Over time, you will feel more comfortable and your speech will become smoother. Remember, speaking smoothly is not about using many words. It is about using the words you have in a natural and confident way. These examples show that you can communicate well even with a small vocabulary. In the next part, we will finish by reviewing what we learned today. I will remind you of the most important ideas and encourage you to keep practicing every day. Today, we have learned many important things about speaking smoothly in English, even if your vocabulary is small. Remember, you don't need to know thousands of words to communicate well. Using simple sentences and helpful phrases can make your speech clear and natural. It is okay to start small and practice step by step. We talked about how simple sentences help your speaking flow better. You do not need to say long or complicated sentences to be understood. Short, clear sentences are often the best way to share your ideas. We also learned about useful phrases and fillers like well and you know. These small words help you sound more natural and give you time to think while speaking. Listening is another key part of learning to speak smoothly. When you listen to English every day, you get used to the rhythm and natural sounds of the language. This makes it easier to speak with confidence. And of course, practicing speaking every day is very important. Whether you repeat sentences, shadow speakers, or talk with friends, regular practice helps you improve. Finally, we saw examples of how simple words and phrases can create smooth, natural conversations. These examples show that you can speak clearly and confidently with a small vocabulary. The most important thing is to keep trying and not be afraid to make mistakes. Every time you speak, you get better. So please remember to practice a little every day. Speak slowly, use simple sentences, listen carefully, and use helpful phrases. With time and patience, your English will become smoother and more natural. You are doing great. Keep going and enjoy your English learning journey. Speaking smoothly with a small vocabulary is possible, and you can do it.